All right, so we've been having a bit of illness in the country, so I thought that it would be nice to do some sigils that can be used in magic to work on supporting good health. So what I've done is to select a word to work with, and we're going to go through some techniques for creating a sigil, each one being a set of them, each one being specialized for one of the planets. So the first thing that we're going to do is look at the fact that with sigils, there is always some sort of a design that they are this type of sigil. They're created on a design. This one is from the Rose Cross. It has the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This one is a sneaky way to make a talisman to reach a particular person because it's their phone number. It's a telephone keypad for the numbers. And then there's the technique of doing the alphabet onto a grid with the columns being numbered and then the letters just done sequentially. Now, this is typically used with either 9 or 10 columns, and that is said to be the standard to work with. Because I work with the English alphabet, the American alphabet, I have done a little bit more work with the grid, and I have found that although it's not in the historical record, that we can work with more than one grid. But first, let's take a look at how we do this. So here we have a grid with 9 columns, and I have spelled out a word, L, E, T. There's a little loop because there are 2 T's, then back up to E, and then out to R, and that makes a design that spells out the word letter. Now that's the method. But I went a step further for you because there are 8 planets, and each one has its own planetary number. So what we have is an array of designs. For Earth, you have 10 columns. For Moon, you have 9 columns. For Mercury, it's 8. Venus is 7. Sun is 6. Mars is 5. Jupiter is 4. And Saturn on the far side is 3. We'll look at these in a little bit more detail as we make our sigil. What I'm working with today is the word health. Now, the word health is something that we all aspire to. That's easy. Health is the opposite of illness. And we don't want to say avoid illness because we want to concentrate on what we want, not on what we don't want. So we're going to start with the word health as our goal. H-E-A-L-T-H. It happens that there are 6 letters, which is the number of the sun. Sun is the center of the solar system and therefore is considered to be the balance point. So it's a balanced word. It begins and ends with the letter H. H represents the breath of life. So we're surrounding ourselves with the breath of life, appropriate for this particular virus. E represents air. So air is what you're breathing in and out of your lungs, which are what is being handicapped by this virus. A represents your personal connection to the universe, the personal spirit. L represents Libra, which has that concept of the scales and balance. T is Jupiter, which is the ruler in the sky. So the god Jupiter, or Zeus, who is like the emperor in our way of thinking, that would be the CEO in a corporation, person in charge, the central authority. And again, the H for the breath of life. Those are the meanings. of the individual letters. Now, for anybody that's busy copying this information down, I'm going to make photographs of each of these posters, and I will put them up on the Absedrian discussion page in Facebook. And I'll give you that address before we're finished. If I then take those letters and I combine them into words, I come up with something that approximates the spell. Surrounded by the breath of life, that's the two H's, we breathe the air, that's the E, to sustain our spirit, A, and its body, with breath in and breath out, which is the balance of in and out with the Libra, by my will, the ruler of our personal life, which is the ego or the self or the true will, and that is related to the Jupiter letter. I soar free with health. That's the H again. So now we've just made a little bit of a spell. We'll come back to this later. It's just an interpretation of the letters in terms of their individual meanings. Okay, so now we have a sense of our word being a good word to work with. Let's take a look at some of how we're going to create a sigil out of it. Let's take Earth. Earth has 10 columns because 10 is the number of Earth. And we're going to spell out H, E, A, L, T, and back to H. Now, any place within one of these squares counts as the letter. Anywhere from the corner to the middle to the side, anywhere in here. And that's important because if we're going from H, E, A, it's going to look like a straight line. So I'm going to move E up to the top and the first H down to the bottom and the A down to the bottom. So, well, that one's gone. There we go. So we're going to go from H, E, A, L, T, H. Now, because I don't want to mark up my original grid, I'm going to do this. We start from H, E, A, L, T, H. Now, the standard is that you begin with a little circle at the beginning of your sigil line, and you end by putting a crossbar to indicate that you've just ended the line. So that is how you go about constructing a sigil. What I suggest that you do is on a piece of paper or on a craft paper, which is ideal, you number 1 through 10 across the top, and then just write out A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on, and then connect those letters to make the sigil for health in Earth. Now, when you're talking about Earth, you're talking about the physical world, and so here we're talking about a sigil for health of our bodies in the physical world. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It's one step at a time. And that's how you make the magic of a sigil. So far, so good. This is what you will find in books all over the place. They will go so far as to build it on a column, on a 9 or 10 column grid. So if we take the moon, the number for the moon is 9. So it's going to rearrange where the letters are. So here we have H, E, A. We still have that straight line problem. A, L, T. Notice that the T has completely changed where it's located. It's no longer over here. It's on this side. So then we hook up our ribbon. H, E, A, L, T, H. Now notice that the sigil I use the exact same method. First, I identified where my letters are, and then I put the ribbon to indicate the line. In the case of the moon with 9 columns, the use of this would be really good with Monday, which is ruled by the moon, or in emotional situations, because the moon rules our emotions and our subconscious. So it would help us work with our unconscious on choosing to do the right things in order to avoid the coronavirus. So that would be the moon sigil. In this case, you would take 9 columns across and then just spell out your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. Okay. Now, going on the same concept, we're going to do something that I have never seen in any other book. Nobody ever seems to go beyond 10 and 9. If we take 8, now we're working with Mercury, a good sigil for Wednesday. And just to make sure you understand the technique, we'll do it again. H, E, A, L. Notice that the T is now directly under the L and back over to the H. So we begin with, I also haven't seen people use ribbon, but this foam board is just so cool. Okay, so we go from H to E, A, L, T, H. So now we have a sigil to use on Wednesday. What would you use it for in a magical working? Well, you could use this as the focal point when you are doing healing work or ritual in order to help the healers, the nurses and the doctors that are at the front, on the front lines, because they are the ones with the science of healing and the techniques for keeping people healthy. They need support not only for themselves, but also for coming up with new ideas to help treat a disease that we really don't know an awful lot about yet. So that's a use for using 8 columns for the Mercury sigil. Okay, I think you can guess where I'm going next. So this time, and I'm going through each one of these because it's a really good way to repeat the information for you. If I use 7 columns, 7 is the number for Venus. Venus rules Friday. So this is going to be a sigil to use on Friday. Venus is also associated with large groups of people working together, so it would be a good one to use for healing community because the whole country is in trouble. So we have H. Notice that the H has changed location now. E, A, L, T, and back to H. So, keep losing the end of my cord here. There we go. So we start with H, E, A, L, T, H. Now, I'm sure that at this point you can definitely see that this sigil looks completely different than the other ones that we've looked at. And that's because of where the letters end up. Each time we're eliminating one column over at the end, which then pushes all the other letters down by one. So this is now a Venus sigil. Once again, you make 7 columns and then just letter them A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and so on till you have the whole alphabet. Then you put in your markers and you draw your lines. The number for the sun is 6. It's a little harder to see what's on here, so you'll just have to take my word for it. And I'll show you where they are. It's H, E, A, L, T, H. So again, with 6 columns going across, we start with H, E, A, L, T, and H. Now the sun is the point of balance in our solar system. So this is a good one for increasing health through balance. In the case of breathing, it's breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. So it's going to be a balancing act. And one of the problems that we're having with coronavirus is that people's lungs get filled up with liquid that they cannot get out. And that's how people end up in serious trouble. But if you can continue to breathe, that's a good thing. By the way, I've been told by my respiration therapist friends that the important thing to do to exercise your lungs is to breathe from the belly really deep, hold it for 5 seconds, then exhale. Do that 4 times. And then the 5th time, cough as hard and as deep as you can. That's just a simple exercise that you can add to this process of making sigils. All right, so if we've gone down to 6, now we're going to move on to Mars, which is 5. 5, now you can really see the difference in the width and the length of the grid. So again, let's do the same process. H, E, A, L, T, ow. The needles on these push pins are deeper than the board. T, H, back up to H. So hopefully I won't have to spill too much blood to do this process for you. Okay. Again, let's go through the sigil. H, E, A, L, T, H. Okay, so Mars rules Tuesday. So this is a sigil you can use on Tuesday. It's very energetic. It's strong. You want to keep your force of will behind the breathing exercises, behind the things that you have to do in order to keep your health strong. Now, I keep coming back to the purpose for the sigil because it's important. That's why we're making it in the first place. Oh, accidental blood sacrifice. Indeed. All righty. So, the next one, obviously, or not so obviously if you're not familiar with them. The next one, if we have 5, the next one is 4. This is Jupiter. Now they're starting to get kind of long. Jupiter is the planet that rules Thursday. And so you can use this one on Thursday. Guess I really did stick myself accidentally on Mars. I wasn't fooling around. Okay, so let's spell it out again. H, E, A, L, T, and back to H. Okay, now you can see we're going to have a problem because there are 4 pins directly above each other. So let's sort of move them around. Remember I said that you can do it anywhere within that square. So we'll move them that way. Wanted to make sure the ribbon was long enough. A little too long. Okay. H, E, A, L, let's move this up a little. L, oops. L, T, H. Okay, so now we have a sigil traced out that can be used for Thursday and also for the leadership that we need to make sure that our resources are allocated, that we are getting things done, that the right information is going out, that wrong information is being counteracted. This one can be applied to a number of things, including the leadership of forcing yourself to do the right thing. I lead myself more than anyone else leads me. You lead yourself more than anyone else leads you. So that's another way to strengthen what you're doing to keep yourself safe and healthy. We have just one more. Saturn. Take my word for it. It's got a lot of letters going down. I'm going to sort of turn it sideways so that we can all see it. Once again, Saturn has the number 3, so there are 3 columns. So we start with H, E, A, that one in the upper corner, L, T, and H. Okay. We take our handy little piece of ribbon, H, E, A, L, T, H. Now, sometimes you can make these a little bit more aesthetically pleasing by moving the pin within the square. But fundamentally, this gives you the shape of the sigil for Saturn with the word health. All right, so we have now made 8 different Saturn rules Saturday, by the way. So we now have 8 different sigils that can be used during the week or for specific purposes. With Saturn, Saturn is the hard planet. Saturn is the one that people get upset about. And in this case, we have to acknowledge that there is death and near death involved with the illness. So in this case, we're going to talk about Saturn as being an appropriate sigil to do work dealing with death, dealing with the nearness of death, dealing with the threat to our lives, dealing with the people that we have lost. Those issues can all be dealt with when you're dealing with Saturn. Okay. So there's another stage that we can go to with this. Some people like to do games with numbers. Well, as I've gone through this, I have talked about the different numbers being the number of columns for each planetary grid. So with Saturn, we had 3 across. With Jupiter, we had 4 across. A, B, and C are always going to be numbered 1, 2, and 3. But after that, the numbers all shift. And the reason they shift is because the number of columns shifts. So if we go from 3 to 4 columns, then the D moves from the second row up to the first row. Now this is important because now we're going to take a look at how we number the alphabet. If I'm working with Jupiter and I want to spell out the word, I take H, which is 4, E, which is 1, A, which is 1, L, which is 4, T, which is 4, and H, which is 4. All right. So after you have your pins in, your spots, the letters identified, that gives you the value of the letter, because everything in the first column is numbered 1, in the second column 2, these are all 3s, and these are all 4s. Now the purpose for having a number attached to each letter is that you can then go to the next level. Trust me, I went through these for you. And you can take the letters in each planet and get the values, and you can add them up. Sometimes the totals are kind of interesting. So in this case, the totals varied, but there were 2 19s, 2 18s, a 30 and a 29 and a 34. I personally don't use that kind of numbering, but when you're dealing with numeration, you need to be able to get those number values. So if you want a number, this is how you would do it. Now, in order to make some sort of sense out of all of these different sigils, I made a list, bottom of the column, there you go, that is going to give you my suggestions for areas, and I mentioned this as we were making the sigils. Earth is good for physical health. Moon is good for emotional health. The health sciences and the healers for Mercury. Community health for Venus. Balance for health is for the Sun. Strong and healthy life for Mars. Leadership for health is Jupiter, and death and loss as a healing for Saturn. That will give you 8 different sigils. Earth doesn't have its own day, but if you begin with Earth on Saturday, then the rest fall into place. So Saturday is Earth, Sunday is Sun, Monday is Moon, Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday is Mercury, Thursday is Jupiter, Friday is Venus, and then Saturday is Saturn. So by starting with Earth, you have the full set. If you're doing a 2-week spread, it's Saturday, skip Sunday, do Monday, skip Tuesday, do Wednesday, skip Thursday, do Friday, skip Saturday, do Sunday, skip Monday, do Tuesday, skip Wednesday, do Thursday, skip Friday, and finish on Saturday. Whole bunch of words. Okay, If you come to a workshop by me, you're going to get more than you need. You're going to get more information than you probably are able to process at the moment. However, now, if you have any questions about applying this, I would suggest that you may want to take a sigil. There's several things you can do with the sigil. What I am not giving you is a method for using it. And the reason is because each of you has a different practice that will give you a different way to use it. You can charge it up in any way you want. Sit it in the moonlight, sit it in the sunlight, put it on top of crystals, put it at the middle of a crystal grid, do a blessing for it, do anything at all that's going to make it seem to you to be more powerful. Add in all the energy that you can to make it a more lively energy that you're going to pull off of that sigil. Once you have it charged up, I suggest that you may want to do one of the following. You can put it in your pocket on a small piece of paper so that you have it to handle all through that day or that week. Or you can take it, and if it's on a small piece of paper, in a safe manner, in your incense bowl, you can burn it, thus releasing the energy that you have put into it. You can use it in ritual. You can use it as the focus of a meditation. There are so many different ways that you can use a sigil. It represents what you have put into it, the meaning of it, the content of it, the numbers, the letters, the word that is the basis of it. All of that gets combined. And by putting it all together, you have a very powerful talisman that will do what you need it to do. Will it keep you from getting the virus? No. Magic doesn't work like that. It will lead you in the direction of doing the things that you need to do to stay healthy. It will support you, but it will not cure you. That is not the purpose of this kind of sigil. If you have healing magic that will cure this virus, then please do not keep it to yourself. Share it with your healing friends. But just like an herbal remedy is going to aid and assist in the body fighting the virus, so the sigil will work to aid in the process of dealing with everything that's coming at us because of this virus. Does anyone have questions about what we've done? It's an easy process. You just do one step at a time. And when you finish, the accumulation of what you've done is a process. The sigil takes the meaning of the word and represents it, but takes away the letters so you're not trying to read the word. It divorces the intent from the word. Now it is a symbol, and that symbol is visual, and it can speak directly to the unconscious, bypassing the conscious mind entirely, which is really cool because we're always trying to get the unconscious and the conscious to work together. If you do come up with any questions after the workshop is over, or if you want to see any of the charts or even to copy them and print them off, you are more than welcome to do that. What I have here is some of the addresses that you can get in touch with me at. The one that I'm referring to on Facebook is Obsidian Discussion. At that location, I have videos that are explaining the whole system and how the alphabet is used. I will have the section on talismans listed there for you, and it will have all of the posters in the photograph section. There will be a video of this same presentation, only it will be done with a different camera. I work with SIA Press Buffalo, so you'll see that here. I use that a lot. I answer the email for it. I answer the Facebook for it, so you'll be able to get directly in touch with me. I am always available on Facebook. I check it every day or two. Email, same thing. And if you want my publisher, it's lulu.com. Books are on Lulu, on Amazon, and on bn.com, Barnes and Noble online. The book that this is taken from is The Obsedrian System.
Lady Gretchen, we have a question from Iblis.
Yes.
By wearing it like a parchment paper?
You can do that. Anything that you suggest to me that is a question, can I? My answer is probably going to be, of course. If you make, for example, every once in a while I end up with some nice branches of good wood from my yard, and I will cut it cross section, which gives me a little disc. I have yew trees out in front of my house. I'll have a disc this big around. I could trace that sigil onto that, drill a hole through it, and wear it as a pendant. I could stick it in my purse. I could stick it in my pocket. Okay, I could put it as a charm on a bracelet. The more creative you are, the more you are owning the process.
Okay. So Lord Iblis also asks, how do we use this sigil? He's sorry if you explained it.
It's okay. Repetition is the mother of learning. Invention too, but you know, they go together. How do you use the sigil? You use it any way you can. Make your sigil, decide what it means, how you're going to focus it, and then you start using it. You can use it on the day of the week, or you can use it in your pocket. Pick one project and work with that. Support our healers. You'd use the Mercury grid. Health for our healers, healers coming up with new ideas for healing people. You would put that on a parchment, on a piece of wood, on a piece of paper, on anything. Be creative, embroider it into something. Wood burn it into a piece of wood. Don't wood burn it into a piece of cloth. That will be combustible. If you burn it to release the energy that you have put into it, then you want to be sure that you are burning it in a safe container. When you burn something, if it is burned, it cannot be undone. Therefore, it is cut loose to go out into the universe. If you want to paint on a candle, you're going to want to use a paint that is going to stick. Acrylic sticks to pretty nearly anything. You can also take a nail or a pen or anything at all, really, and scrape the design into the candle. Then as the candle burns, it will release that same energy. As I said, any method that you already use in magic, and you need a sigil, you need a focus point, you need something to embody an idea, you can use this method. So it doesn't have to be the word health. As you can see from the sigils that I made, it's better if it's a 6, 5, 4-letter word. If you get 8, 10, 12 letters, it starts to get really confusing. And it almost is counterproductive. Does that help? Okay. Okay, to get the sigil onto another item, this is why the goddess gave us pencils. Lightly draw in the grid and then mark where they would be, where the letters would be, and then you can just go and directly draw onto it. I'm sorry I didn't give you a very clear description of the transfer because I'm so used to doing it, I sometimes forget to mention that to people. The size of your grid is determined by what you're putting it onto. Having a grid this big when your candle is only this big doesn't work. The other method is that once you have it drawn out on a grid like this, you can trace it off onto a piece of paper and then lay that on top of what you're going to put it onto in order to even just punch the holes through. If you're putting it on wood, you can use paint, you can use pencil, you can use marker. Flare markers work really nice, really, really nice on wood, and give you the color too. Wood burn it, On a tile, you need some form of glaze or paint or grease pencil. So the material is going to pretty well determine how you make it. Does that answer the wood question from Riki? Okay.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Excellent. This is my first time working with an interactive video thing, and I suppose it's the direction we're going in. So I appreciate you all being patient with me as I learn how to actually do this stuff. It's kind of,
when you choose which grid to use according to what word you're using, do you always go according to the planetary number?
Okay, so the first thing you're going to do that I already did for you before I started, you pick your word that has the content of what you're trying to do, and then you pick your planet. Now, once you have your word, you put it on the grid of the planet. Okay, the grid is determined by the number of the planet. 3, Saturn. 4, Jupiter. 5, Mars. 6, Sun. 7, Venus. 8, Mercury. 9, Moon. 10, Earth. So what are you planning to do with it? You have an idea of what you want to do, so you think about it and you figure out, well, now that's sort of ruled by this planet. Or this is a work that I want to do on this day of the week. Either one. And then you pick your word, and then you're ready to go. It's a combination, one step at a time. Okay, the telephone grid is a fun, sneaky way to do things. We carry in our pockets our telephone numbers. The theory of a sigil for a person or a being is that it's a gateway through which you can reach that person or being. So the archangels have sigils. Different saints, different gods and goddesses have a sigil. In the Vodun, they have the Veves. These are like a tracing of the phone number. So if you take the number pad, it used to be that it was a grid of 3 across and 4 down, I think, 3 down. And then the 0 was at the bottom. Basically, you put the numbers and you trace out the phone number, because that's the same design your finger is going when you're pushing the buttons for that phone number. Okay? So if you have to go 716, you've just traced the area code part of a phone number. Only instead of doing it on a telephone, you're doing it on a piece of paper. And just like you tap out the full phone number, that connects you to the phone of the person you're trying to reach. They may or may not answer the phone, which is something we sometimes forget in magic. They may or may not answer the phone, but it will connect you with that phone. Okay, so to contact a person, you use that sigil. Magically, you want to contact that person, you can use that sigil. Like I said, the grid can be anything, as long as it has meaning to you, and it's a reasonable representation of what you're trying to do. Yeah, it's a sneaky one. But it works exactly the same. And it's the same contact point that you have with spirits. If you have the sigil for a spirit, reach out and contact them. You're reaching out to a particular spirit because only that spirit has that design. Just like only you have your phone number. Okay. I trust that answered the question.
So, quick question.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then way to practice to make
I'm sorry, That got sort of blurred. Could we try it again? Your audio was kind of blurred. Ricky, I'm not getting your voice here. You're muted. Okay. Any other questions? Feel free to friend me on Facebook or follow my Facebook pages or visit my website, because things are beginning to speed up a little bit again, and more information down the road.
What Ricky was asking is,
Yes.
Can she use her own phone number to create her own personal sigil?
Absolutely. There's a tradition of having a magical ring. It's normally worn on the index finger of the dominant or right hand. That is going to be some sort of a representation of your personal sigil. That is a stable design that lasts over the years. It may be made with this kind of a system, or it may be made as just a regular symbol. Mine changed about 3 years ago, after 40 years of use of the old one. So that was kind of an interesting experience. Now I associate with a completely different symbol. But yes, you can use a sigil like this to represent yourself. What better way to get in touch with your own feelings, your own emotions, your own inner life? I wouldn't share it any more than I would share my magical name, but you know, that's a personal choice. Okay. Thank you for being here and listening to me. I've been looking forward to delivering this particular workshop for some time. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to bring
So, the meeting, join now.
Thank you very much.
We loved it. I absolutely loved your workshop, Gretchen. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now I know where Bill gets all his good ideas from.
Oh, he has a few of his own, let me tell you.
I know.
Okay, I see that our coordinator is here to remind me that the time
Oh, sure. But yeah, no, you're doing fine. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I hope you all enjoyed it. All right.
All right, folks are starting to go out, so I think I will sign off too.
All right. And thank you. And another successful class.
Yes.
Really was very interesting.
Thank you. Bye-bye.